Hello, Sally here from the Country Trust. Today we're going to learn about weeds. We're going to prepare our bed ready for growing, and we're going to find out a little bit more about what is a weed, why do we want to get rid of them, how to get rid of them, and what to do with them afterwards. And I'll show you the tools that I'm going to be using as well, so you can do this either at school or at home. So the tools that I'm going to use today are a hand fork, a trowel, a hoe, a spade and a fork. Now the two most useful ones for me are these two, the hand fork and the trowel. What is a weed? You might have heard of some very common weeds such as dandelion, daisy or even chickweed. But a weed is basically a plant that's growing in the wrong place, something that you don't want to be growing there. And I'll just show you an example of my bed here, because it's got a mix of weeds that you might know, but also some plants that are quite useful and pretty, but they're not great for growing in this bed at this time, so I do need to get rid of them. So I'm defining them as weeds. So the first one over here is what looks like a dandelion, and it's got these long leaves and these little yellow flowers there. Now it might be something else. It might be a smooth hawk's beard, which is a great name, but all I know is that it shouldn't be here. I need it to go, so we're getting rid of it. We've also got this. Now this is a great weed because it sticks to things, and that's how it transports its little seeds. You see, I put it on my clothes and it sticks. It's called cleavers, and there are quite a few other names. It's worth looking up, but that definitely needs to go. I've also got something that is really useful. Is actually a herb. But I don't want it to be in this bed, so I am calling it a weed for that purposes. And I don't know if you can see just at the bottom there, I'm going to pick up a little bit because it's easier. This is fennel, and fennel self-seeds everywhere, so I know I've got lots more in the garden, but I don't want it in this bed at the moment. I'm going to get rid of the weeds. I've decided actually I'm going to use this big fork because I think there's going to be quite a big taproot, which is a root a bit like a carrot that goes down. So I'm going to try this one first. Get my fork in and then pull it back, and let's have a look. Oh, do it again. Weeds are really good at growing, so you do sometimes have to put a bit of effort into getting them out. So let's have a look. Oh, and there we are. Look, a bit like a carrot there. It's not edible, but it's like a long taproot, and that keeps it anchored. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to throw it away in to my jug or bucket, or just to the side for the moment until I decide what to do with it. Hello. So if you are weeding between edible plants, it is a little bit trickier. The best thing to do is to find your edible plants and identify them. So here I can see I've got spring onions growing, and I can look along the row and I can see that there's several of them. I have planted them in a row, and I did have a little identification stick at the end, so I knew where my row was, and because they're in a row and they all look similar, I know that I've sown them. So identify the plant that you know, and then look for something that's different in amongst them. And here I can see that I've got some poppy weeds. They're calling them weeds today, so I'm going to take those out. And there's a little bit of fennel in there that I don't want growing, so I'm going to take that out as well. Some more poppy. There we go. And over here as well. And also I've got some chickweed in here as well. I don't know if you can just see that. And I have to be really careful not to disturb the plant that I want to keep. So I'm keeping hand weeding in between, just using my hand. Should have a glove on, but rather than using a fork, because I don't want to damage those onions at the bottom. So identify your plant that you want to keep, have a look to see if it's in a row, if you planted it in a row, and then start weeding very carefully in between. So I'm digging it all over. I don't know if you can see this bed now, but it's looking a lot clearer up one end. I'm finding all sorts in here, a little buried treasure. This is a potato from last year. There's a slightly bigger one over here. There we go. And so I'm putting those to one side. I'm finding all sorts of little mini beasts in here as well. Come across a caterpillar already, which is really early. Some worms and some little ants have started to come out. So I don't really want to disturb their habitat, but I do want to grow some vegetables. Across here, I just wanted to show you this, an example of a long taproot. And that is why weeds in particular are very good at growing. They're able to get into small spaces, tiny little crevices, and they also spread their seeds really quickly, some of them. So we've got here, this will be blown about in the wind and then self-seed elsewhere. Some of them have got roots that if they get broken off, they can then carry on growing elsewhere. So you need to get the roots out of those perennial weeds, which means it'll grow year after year. And the annual weeds are just brilliant at spreading their seeds, and they'll get everywhere if you let them self-seed. I've dug over my bed. I've found all sorts of different things in there. I've found where is it? There we go. I think that might have been from last year when I was eating a peach. And I must have just chucked it into the bed. I must have been sitting on the side. I've also found all of these potatoes from last year, so they're coming quite handy. They're still fine. Those are called a variety called Pink Fir, and they're quite a long knobbly salad potato, so those are brilliant. And I can't have harvested them last year, so they're a lovely bonus harvest this year. I am now going to go over and get my lovely two girls, Margot and Marigold, and give them a bit of treats, because I know that there's going to be lots of grubs in there. These are my two girls. They are chickens, in case you're wondering, and I just happen to have them. Anyway, I don't expect you to have chickens necessarily at school or at home, but I just want to share them with you because they're really lovely, and they absolutely love digging around. So I'll just show you them here. Okay, now they look a bit the same, but this one is Marigold. There we go. Just to said hello. And at the back, oops, that is Margot. So Margot is definitely the boss. She's bigger, and she sort of keeps everything in line, really. This is the trug of weeds that have been pulled out of the bed. What am I going to do with them? Some of them, the annual weeds, that's the ones that grow very, very quickly. If they haven't got seeds on them ready to drop, those will go straight into the compost heap that I've got at the bottom of the garden. The others that have got larger taproots, I'm not going to put in. I'm going to put them in my brown bin, which will go off to the council, and that's going to be then sort of heated in a really large compost heap, much bigger than I can make, and that will make compost for everyone to share, because those won't break down. What they'll do is break up and then just produce more seeds in my compost. I'm Sally, working for the Country Trust. I've taught you today about weeding with the help of Margot and Marigold. Hopefully your bed will be clear of weeds and you'll be able to start sowing your seeds to grow into edible plants, and we'll see how to do that next time. Bye!